What's up everyone, OJ here. Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about the impossible comeback of the Nintendo with the Nintendo Switch. This is something that you normally don't see at all. If you see a system, a main system from one of these bigger companies throughout the history of time sell less than 14 million units in the years that it's been out, that spells doom for whatever system you're doing next. That spells doom for you pretty much right then and there. I think Nintendo's probably the only company that could resurrect this type of comeback. But the thing about it is, while it's impressive and it is somewhat impossible based on those numbers there, it's not the first time that they've kind of done it. They kind of did it with the GameCube to the Wii, but the GameCube actually sold like 20 million units plus, and the GameCube was far cheaper to produce than what the Wii U was. So the GameCube was still wildly popular, and on top of that, the GameCube sold way more software when it comes to things. Like, they sold like over 200 million units of software, so there were things about the GameCube that went a lot better from a production and functionality standpoint when it comes to the business side of things compared to the more expensive to produce Wii U and the manufacturing R&D that you have to do to get like the tablet controller and all of that. So even if you look at it compared to the GameCube, the Wii U was way lower than that, all things considered. And of course we know about the Nintendo 3DS that had a very rocky start to start off with, but to see Nintendo come back from this type of thing, this is unprecedented when it comes to the video game industry. Look at like the Sega Saturn, right? That really kind of flopped, and then they made the Sega Dreamcast, and then that kind of flopped once again. Even though it was beloved, that also flopped as well, because usually when you have that one big flop, you lose so much consumer trust and interest. It becomes very hard to come back from your next system. And then of course the competition exploits your weaknesses and kind of jumps all over it. Microsoft hopped into the fray and pretty much it was over at that point. So even if you look at it from that standpoint, it's impossible that Nintendo was going to be able to do this, and many people thought that way. When the Nintendo Switch was first shown off, there were so many videos from various different YouTubers and personalities out there that were saying Nintendo's screwed, Nintendo pretty much did the same thing they did with the Wii U. They're not thinking about the power's not strong enough, it's not this, it's not that, they should just say this, they should just do that. Everybody kind of counted them out. Now there were still some people saying no, Nintendo can still do it, but after I saw the presentation, even after that, people were making those type of things and saying that Nintendo was going to be, you know, done after this, and Nintendo, this is going to be their last system and all of this stuff just because of the failure with the Wii U. And that's kind of how bad it was. Like, they weren't even given the opportunity to launch their system. Even with a Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, there were still people out there saying, nope, they're not going to have any of this. This is going to be a huge failure. I mean, I saw it so much and I just thought it was kind of crazy to kind of say that at that point, considering how big the presentation was and everything. But that's why this comeback is even more impressive, because so many people thought that they couldn't do it even after showing off what they did show off at that 2017 January presentation. So I think many people felt that they're going to repeat the same mistakes just because of the Wii U and the whole power situation, and many people pegged the Wii U failing to the power thing, but that's not really what it was. It was more of an architecture thing, and it was more of they couldn't reduce the price of the system thing because of the Wii U gamepad. So it was more because of that, not necessarily because of power. And I think that's what people weren't really equating. That's just the easy thing to say, oh well, it's not as powerful as this, so therefore it's not going to do well. But let's go over some of the reasons why this was the impossible comeback and kind of how they got it there, right? People weren't really confident in the marketing. So that's one of the big things with the Nintendo Switch that changed up, and what made this comeback possible was the marketing of the system was way better. I think Scott Moffat was out. They brought in Doug Bowser. Of course, Reggie had more of a hands-on things. They had the Super Bowl commercial. That was a huge one there with the Super Bowl commercial. It really got a lot of eyes on what the Nintendo Switch was going to be with the Legend of Zelda. It was very functional. They had a very popular song, I think like the Imagine Dragons or whatever it was. Very popular song, good commercial, and it completely shows what the Switch is, what you can do with it, and it makes sense. You switch, you go from playing the portable to playing on the TV, back to portable. So the marketing of the system was just right there on point from the very beginning, even taking off the Joy-Cons, passing it to a friend, being able to play, the functionality within the Joy-Con, right? Having an IR, having a camera, the 1-2 switch type of things, having motion controls kind of built in, being able to turn it sideways and play old school. It was already built in local multiplayer out of the box. The marketing for that was perfectly shown off right before the launch of the system. So that was really good. And even in the October presentation that they had, that was good as well. So the marketing was on point. Next was the functionality, being able to play this device anywhere that you want. That type of functionality is something that you don't see with the other systems, right? The Vita had already failed. That was already on its way out in 2017 when the Switch was launching. The Nintendo 3DS was still going, but people had many quibbles with the Nintendo 3DS when it comes to the resolution, not be able to play certain games that would probably play better on the TV, because the 3DS kind of has a lot of games that are like pseudo console games, right? Not a lot of pick up and play experiences. I mean, there are, but there's a lot of games that are essentially console games, but just with lower graphics on the Nintendo 3DS, so not being able to play on the TV if you wanted to. So there was functionality issues with the Nintendo 3DS, and the fact that the main gimmick was 3D, but 3D pretty much wore out its welcome very quickly when it comes to 3D draining the battery and having to hold it still. But then if you want to have the super stable 3D, but I mean, at the same time, it was still something that came out of focus. So 3D wore out its welcome very quickly. So the functionality of the system was very normal. It was a normal system compared to what Nintendo's done for the past decade when it comes to the Wii U, when it comes to the Wii. This was the most normal and regular playing thing without anything crazy with the gimmick, because the gimmick was, well, you can play it anywhere that you want. That's actually a really good gimmick when it comes to marketing, when it comes to functionality with someone, especially if you're traveling a lot, if you have a busy lifestyle, if you just want to play games lying down comfortably. The functionality and the gimmick and the marketing all just kind of played right into each other. And next up is the R&D, right? If you look at the R&D, which ties into what we're going to talk about next, which is games, but the R&D combining things. The fact that Nintendo had the foresight to say, you know what, we need to combine these two with the R&D. Heck, we can still make two separate systems, right? We can still have a portable system and a home console if we want to, but I think it'd be better if we just put them together and see what they can come up on the same page, because Nintendo always split up their R&D, right? When it comes to portable systems and when it comes to home consoles. We got that news that Nintendo combined the R&D, and you know what? That led to the thinking of the Nintendo Switch. That led to them saying, hey, you know what? We are going to take this chance on potentially not having two separate revenue streams of a home console and a portable, because that was a staple within Nintendo for decades, right? Since the Game Boy back in the 80s, they've always had that revenue stream when it comes to home consoles and portables. And to have the kahunas, or to have the fortitude to actually say, you know what, we're going to release one system here, but we're going to put our might behind that when it comes to games. That was risky, but at the same time, it worked out ingenious, because the Nintendo 3DS is still selling. So they're still having their two revenue streams. Obviously, it's majority with the Nintendo Switch, and it seems like they're going to be introducing some type of new Switch Mini or so to kind of take over that revenue stream with the 3DS. But I think the 3DS is still going to be sold out there. So that was ingenious right there. But I think the last thing that everybody needs to talk about, and I'm wondering why this wasn't something to where people saw from the very beginning, and that is games, games, games. The improbable comeback comes with the combination of the stuff that we talked about, right? The marketing, the functionality, the R&D, but the biggest thing, the R&D, combining the two to where you get the full force of Nintendo's games on one platform. Probably the biggest issue with the Wii U was droughts. One of the biggest issues. There was other things. There was price, there was marketing, there was all sorts of issues. But one of the biggest problems, even when the system was out to where probably it would have went above the GameCube if it just had more games. It just did not have enough games. There wasn't enough games on a consistent release lineup. And we're not even talking like ports. Like, there wasn't even like a lot of ports. There wasn't even a ton of indie games coming out. On the Nintendo Switch, every single week you're seeing new games. Yes, a lot of them are crappy, whatever the case is with some of the shovelware, but a lot of them are good. You're seeing a lot of ports. You're seeing a lot of different stuff that you never saw. For the first time ever, we're seeing franchises that have never been on a Nintendo platform show up on a Nintendo platform, but you're seeing constant releases of big games, whether it be a port, whether it be Nintendo first party, whether it be anything that comes out, indie games. You're seeing high quality stuff because of the architecture of the system, which once again, R&D coming through there saying, hey, we're going to use an architecture that is more familiar with developers out there, so indie developers can hop on easy, and other developers as well can kind of get the hang of it more than what the Wii U was. So you're seeing that with the games, right? You're seeing them come out with stuff like Animal Crossing. That's going to be on the Nintendo Switch. Pokemon is going to be on the Nintendo Switch. Fire Emblem is going to be on the Nintendo Switch. Luigi's Mansion is going to be on the Nintendo Switch. All those franchises weren't on the Wii U in the capacity that they needed to be on there for that system to do well. It was still split, right? And even if you're looking at some of the stuff that came out in the beginning, right? So stuff like Splatoon 2, that was early. Stuff like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, getting that out early. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, ARMS, Pokken, all of this stuff that came out in that first year to really push people on the idea that Nintendo is going to be frequently releasing their first party games. You are going to get major first party games pretty much all the time, and they're going to be the games that you're going to want to play too. I think Nintendo took a little bit too long because it took them more than a year and a half. Yeah, well, more than a year and a half to get like Mario Kart 8 out, right? That took a while to get that, and that was their first online game too, whereas from the very start, right there in April, you can play Mario Kart. Yeah, it was a port, but you can still play that great game. And then right there in June, they had ARMS, which is another online game, brand new IP. Then in July, bam, Splatoon 2. And right there, you already have 4 high-quality games within the first few months of the system. You've got your games. Whereas with the Wii U, it took some time. So the impossible comeback was just a combination of various different things that really worked out for them, from marketing, functionality of the system, R&D, and games. But it's great to see that Nintendo made that impossible comeback because a lot of people wrote them off. So what do you guys think about the Nintendo Switch? We are going to get some financial numbers depending on when you're watching this. We might already know or not, but we're getting some financial numbers this upcoming week. So we're going to see the sales, and I'm thinking it's going to be pretty good here when it comes to it. So what do you guys think about all this? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Go and check out the links in the description below. We got Facebook and Twitter. Go and give us a like and a follow on our social media. Hit that like button if you did like this video. Lets me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to PlayerEssence for latest RPG, Japanese, and Nintendo gaming news. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.